I feel the combination of word and sound is just the most direct, emotionally captivating, what else? Comforting, uplifting, whatever you want to call it, art form out there.
It's time for another episode of Best of the Tour. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite gig posters, tour merch, and the artists who bring it all to life. Let's start the show.
Welcome, everyone. This is episode number 11 of the Best of the Tour podcast, entitled Art Beyond Reality. This is an artist interview with our friend from across the pond, Max Loeffler. Max, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We thought we would start off a little bit. Erica can give a brief bio, and then we can jump right in.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're not familiar with Max's work, maybe you've been living under a rock, but Max is an artist, and we're speaking to you where you're currently located in Germany and talking to you from across the pond. If you don't know, you can find Max's work on Instagram at Hacks Loeffler, Loeffler. And also, if you're looking for some good holiday gifts coming up to his shop, I would check out www.maxloeffler@bigcartel.com. Max is an artist that we have been familiar with for many years now, specifically with our collection with Goose and the Dave Matthews Band.
I was going to say DMB as well. But so many artists that
Max has worked with.
Billy Strings, Metallica, Queens of the Stone Age. I think I saw Foo Fighters.
Fish and Modest Mouse, Mumford and Sons.
Chances are, if you listen to them, chances are Max has done a poster for them.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things about Max's artwork is the unique kind of design and nature of it. It's got this like psychedelic surrealism and a real fun quality to it that is really exciting and unique for us in the gig poster industry, but also in the merch industry.
For anybody looking at a still or video, I'm wearing some of Max's work. One of my favorite t-shirts. I mean, it's getting worn out now, but this is from the September fall tour for Goose last year in 2024. And Erica and I had the pleasure of attending a show of Goose's in Charlottesville, Virginia, which I'm going to just dive into story time here, and we'll let Max chime in maybe on this piece, if that works, Max.
Yeah, sure.
Charlottesville in the States here is an interesting space, I think, for us, for me and Erica, being that we're lifelong Dave Matthews Band fans. And Dave Matthews Band originated in Charlottesville, Virginia. Dave himself has a winery out there. There's a famous little kind of pub called Miller's, which is where Dave used to work as a sandwich maker, and they would have live music on Tuesday, Thursday nights kind of thing. And that's where Dave kind of put his band members together. Saxophonist Leroy Moore was regularly doing kind of jazz saxophone. Drummer Carter Beauford was doing stuff there. And so they all kind of intersected from this little town called Charlottesville, Virginia.
All right. I didn't know that.
So we had this opportunity to go and see Goose, who's another favorite band of ours. In Charlottesville. It was an incredible weekend. Erica and I happened to pull up at our hotel, and the band was staying at the hotel, and we met the band.
No way.
Rick and Trevor, and later we met Peter, and it was just all this kind of craziness. Just by the universe kind of aligning, we ran into these guys as we pull in to check in the hotel. Mm-hmm. Then the next day, the day of the concert, we were waiting. Charlottesville, Virginia has this downtown mall area, kind of like shops and eateries and coffee shops and things, but it's all closed off. It's for pedestrian traffic only. And we went, grabbed a coffee, walked the mall, wanted to see where the venue was, and we noticed people were already lining up. And this is like 10 o'clock in the morning for a Gates
7 o'clock show.
Gates at 6 kind of show.
Okay.
It was a beautiful day in Charlottesville, and there was a nice park bench and a beautiful tree giving me shade. And I said to Erica, I'm going to stay here because we're like 10th in line or 15th in line at that point. It's all general admission. We'd get really close to the stage. And so the long story short is I stayed in line and hung out. Erica went back to the hotel, got changed. She grabbed some picnic lunch, came back. And as we were kind of waiting, the one of the security guards became very friendly with us in line. We got to know him. Nice guy. And later on, he came through the line. He said, hey, we have a few of these extra flyers that we are putting up around town to promote the gig. This is what we have on the wall behind us. And this is Max's artwork that was the tour t-shirt that I'm wearing. But this was a specific poster that they did around town in Charlottesville that was to promote the show. You know, it was for promotional purposes only, but they had a stack of them, maybe about 15 or 20 left over. And so the security gentleman went through the line and asked if anybody wanted one. And I, of course, sir, right here, sir. And to top the evening off and the whole experience, after the show, we were actually fortunate enough that same security guard remembered us and he gave us a set list. And so now we have
Nice.
Your work framed in our home with the set list, and it's one of our kind of like featured pieces of our collection from that experience. And we've talked about it on our other podcast a little bit, Posters in Every Direction. I'm not sure how much we've mentioned it on Best of the Tour, but it's a good place to talk about it. That's sort of one of the reasons we're here is to talk about gig posters, right? And kind of the evolution of art and music sort of dovetailing for promotion and now for memento or souvenir in the gig poster. It really kind of fundamentally started with these handbills. And handbills were kind of a way for, and I think maybe to some degree still are, though fewer and further between.
Yeah. And actually, if you listen to the first episode with Justin Hampton, the artist, he's one of the pioneers, I think, of gig posters out of Seattle, Washington, and Nirvana and Pearl Jam. But he talked about creating handbills that, you know, would get tacked up to the power lines and the phone poles around town. And for us to have something, not only was it a piece of your artwork, which is incredible for us because this piece, other than being on a t-shirt, was not a printed
I wanted to
poster.
mention that. Yeah.
Which is really special. So first of all, as collectors, we kind of go, we have something special, you know, like something that is like a little bit of a bragging right. Yeah. But also it's something that's really unique because this piece, as Mike had mentioned, he loves the t-shirt.
It's the little guy. It's the little sort of like alien plant man, you know, sort of emerging from the cocoon that looks like he could be friendly, but also might be able to just open up and take your head off if you're not friends.
If you're not a fan of Goose,
Right. That's the long story, but jump in here, Max. Tell us about this work, this piece, and anywhere else you want to take it.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned handbills because growing up in my hometown, it was great that it wasn't a really big town, like maybe 60,000 people living there. But the music scene was pretty vivid and there were a lot of bands. Even in I grew up in a little suburban village outside of the actual city. And the first time I got really into contact with creating art for music, concerts, whatever, was through designing handbills. Or back then, we didn't know better. I actually didn't even know that there were gig posters at that time. Yeah, just offset printed posters. So I didn't remember that, but that's actually how I got into this entire thing. So it's so nice to see that you guys were able to grab one of these printed versions of the artwork. I remember that for some reason these weren't available as screen prints.
Yeah, they put it on the shirt, like I said, and it was sort of the
fall tour shirt,
the fall tour flag, if you will. You know, like if you're coming out to see Goose, and you were picking up the tour shirt, like so to some degree, like your artwork was exposed just
more exponentially than just a singular show.
Yeah, sure. I knew that. Funny enough, I just stumbled across the sketches I submitted to that particular piece, like just a few days ago, and I didn't remember, but I was a bit surprised because like the flower with the smiling mouth, it wasn't there, you know, like there was just the general setup of a flower growing out of that, of a crack, of a abyssal crack in the bottom. And if I remember right, there was like there was the flower was the actual blossom wasn't visible. It was a face hidden under a piece of cloth. And I'm pretty happy that we decided to go in a more happy and more welcoming direction with that flower and smiling mouth.
That's interesting. So the design itself kind of went through some evolution, some change.
Yeah, sure. That's but that's always like that can always be the case. I actually always say that too. For that reason, I keep my sketches pretty rough, and I sometimes feel bad about it that people have to look at them. But it has a reason, because things can change during the process. Especially it's a gig poster or like an ad mat in that case has so much different aspects of not only the artwork and the illustration, but also type. Like I have a background in graphic design, and it's just I find it very hard to really get like bound to that sketch setup.
Right.
And then you have like the final illustration, which is of course far more elaborated and detailed. And I can only make a decision on everything, on type and everything, if I have the final illustration. Yeah.
It's like layers of the process. And also, do you feel like collaborating then either with the band management or the art director at the management level, do you feel like that is enhancing the design, or does it maybe make you feel a little more restricted in your artistic expression?
Well, it depends, but it's always like you have so much freedom. Like most of the time, you have so much freedom in the gig poster, in creating gig posters. Of course, you're bound to a brief, and you want to like have a connection to the city. And of course, you can't do skulls for whatever. Like you couldn't do skulls for Taylor Swift or whatever. But
Right.
well, would be interesting, I think. But
I think I like that juxtaposition, right? That like, wouldn't it be amazing?
A new era, the skull era.
Skull era. I love that. Taylor Swift people, if you're listening, we need a skull Taylor Swift poster on the next tour. Talk to Max.
Yeah, but there are far better guys out there who can do skulls. Anyway,
Using the ability to have either full creative
management and stuff.
Management versus sort of more of we've talked about this, like, are there certain iconography that you want to ensure that for us as collectors, we'll recognize the band fans, right? We'll go, oh, that's this, or, for
like
Dave Matthews,
an Easter egg, as we call it.
Sure.
Or is it whatever you want to do, Matt? However your brain designs and decides to create, go.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be all of this. I mean, there are proposals. You always want to have the connection to the city, and I try my best, like from overseas, getting the connections of the US cities and stuff. But of course, it's via Googling and Google Street Mapping, and like I can't take a trip each time I do a poster in the US. But exactly with the management, it's actually most of the time it's nice to have their input. Like basically, I had like for my latest Offspring poster, I submitted it to the art director of collections, Chris Everhart. And I mean, it was a bit of a tense situation. We were awaiting a baby, and I couldn't really tell when I was like out of office.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do this so hard, and I submitted the sketch and everything, and he came back and had great input.
That's awesome.
And I took care of it, and it made a better poster in the end.
Yeah, so, and it's really fun though, because I feel like your work, while you have a unique kind of tonality and theme of surrealism, psychedelia, I feel like a lot of your pieces are sometimes so unique, a little bit more on the modern side. This Offspring one, I think, is the one from Frankfurt, right?
Yeah.
That you just did, and it reminds me of like a comic book. I think I have the little
That was the inspiration. It was a little bit of crumb.
Yeah, a little Cheshire cat in the corner, like a cat and mouse game, right? With the catching the mouse. And it's just,
Tom and Jerry.
It's also a little unique, right? Because this one looks like quality of the color. It was like very like 3-color, maybe very green, very blue, very black. A lot of your artwork then has a lot of multicolors. Most recently, the one from Mumford and Sons. I saw that one from just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that, I
Yeah,
think it
show
was,
was, yeah, something like that.
which is another beautiful piece. And so
Thank
to
you.
have the ability to have some artistic freedom with guidance from the artistic directors or the band management, that's such a neat thing to be able to have that partnership. And hopefully
Of
it's
course.
maybe inspiring more for you, or does it push you a little bit more to think, like you said, outside the box, or how to bring unique imagery to maybe a band like Goose that you've done several pieces of work for?
Yeah, that was for Goose. I think, I'm not sure. I think I did four pieces, 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
posters.
Yeah.
And it all started with a bunch of old sketches I had lying around because I was in my studies. I was a lot into vintage science fiction novels.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, you always kind of, if the idea comes to your mind, you got to get it out and put it on some kind of whatever lies around,
Mm-hmm.
kind of sheet of paper. And I stumbled upon it, and I immediately felt that the first one was, I think, yeah, that horizontal one with this otherworldly forest and the little astronaut or cosmonaut, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had another sketch. I think the next one was that mountain villa with a forest and the trees in the foreground and this very organically moving, almost like Roger Dean-esque villa. So I jumped on that and thought it would be fun to have a connection to it. And that kind of started it, that I put the forest from the first poster into the back of the far horizon of the second one.
Yeah. So it kind of connects the universe through the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you're like me and Erica, you love passing out stickers while attending concerts with friends, making new friends. Where do you get these stickers? Look no further than stickerrobot.com. They are renowned for the highest quality sticker printing on the planet, world famous, custom outdoor silkscreen sticker printing, free US shipping, and we have a promo for you. If you visit stickerrobot.com/invisible, you will receive 10% off your next high quality screen printed sticker order. So act fast.
Going right now.
Right now.
Right now. And also, thanks to our friends over at the Rock Poster Society. If you don't know TRPS, they are a nonprofit behind the world's longest running rock poster collection shows. That includes the Festival of Rock Posters in San Francisco, which is a bucket list thing for Mike and I to go to. They have been championing the art of poster for decades. They support both the artists and those people who collect them and preserve them. If you want to get involved, go over to trps.org if you want to become a member and check out their upcoming events.
Check them out. When you're creating these, Max, this is a question I like to ask artists, frequently. Talk to us a little bit about like your process of understanding maybe about the music or about the band. Do you plug into the band and listen to some of their catalog before you work on a piece for them, or do you just kind of take the piece and try to align it with the event?
So there's no real like structure or like common thing, I would say. I mean, music is playing all the time anyway, but it really, I mean, it also depends a bit on the kind of poster I'm working on. If the band, I mean, I can't like listen in the creative process. I can't listen to metal all the time during my if I create a piece for Metallica, of course, Metallica's great. I listen a lot during the creation process of my last poster for them, but it all depends. Sorry, I think I did lose the question.
No, I think you're right on. It's just interesting to me that the design work, even if it's not using a specific trope or icon, right?
Mhm.
That you can align it and sort of give it this feel. Like you said, like when I saw this, it aligns so perfectly to me with the experience of going to see this band and the sound, right? Like some of the things that I see in sort of the the growth of it, the positivity, I mean, he is a little bit, like I said, he's a smiley alien flower. So we're not really sure if but what we talk about a lot of times when we, going to Goose shows, for instance, is that Goose has this ability to kind of move you through the music and change from the sun is setting, let's be kind of happy and free for all as we kind of get ready to go to the flow down, so to speak. And then they might just take us to
Where
what we
else?
call dark Goose, where they get a little bit more edgy, maybe a little slight metal influence in there. Or they might take us to this sort of like
Ethereal,
outer
lofty.
space or ethereal. And this, it ties a lot of that together. It's like there's the organic, the happy, the growth of the plant, but we might sort of be on another plane or in outer space here. And at the same time, that sort of grin could go either way. It could be the sly kind of villainous grin that you get from sort of a metal feel, or it could be that happy. And I know I'm focused on this piece a lot because I love it so much.
Think,
but
though, overall, and you've done a lot of work for the bands that we currently listen to that we love, Billy Strings. Actually, the show you did I believe it was like a trip, not a true triptych, but a 3-night for Billy Strings at Coca Booth in Cary, North Carolina. And one of those shows, Mike and I got tickets for one night because it is a very hard ticket to get. We were at those shows and saw your artwork as well we have a little bit of OCD when it comes to collecting. It's either, especially if it's part of a whole series, we were like, okay, we can get night 2, but how are we going to get night 1 and night 3?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
There are a lot of collectors, our friends. Some of them are, I only get the poster at the show I'm at. Unlike us, where we might collect posters of artists that we love or imagery that just captures us in a way that is a must-have on the wall.
Or, hey, this one matches the wallpaper on the ceiling in the bathroom.
Right. That's a very unique thing in our home. Another story for another time of why there's wallpaper on my ceiling. But your work has an ability to, I think, from a fan perspective of what I see, like I see this piece, and again, this was t-shirt, handbill, and a lot of social media. So not particularly like the gig poster, but I see this and I think of a song called Everything Must Go. There's a line in the Goose song that says, the universe with a view. And I see this from the way that you've been able to create like the perspective of like, you've got the alien flower buddy up front, but this sort of like expansive world universe that could go infinitely forever and ever and ever. And I think of it in that's what triggers the lyric in my brain. But it could be completely different for Mike. It could be completely different for any other person that engages with the artwork. And some of your pieces specifically for the Dave Matthews Band, obviously we are big Dave Matthews fans. There's the piece that you had done, I believe it was West Palm Beach from 2021, that in the Dave Matthews community is incredibly sought after from a collectability standpoint, because one, the brilliance of your piece for this one is obviously it's got a very Floridian, Miami Vice vibe to it. It's got these beautiful, like what I would consider like what I would see my grandmother's house in the 80s who lived in Fort Lauderdale vibes. But then there's these little Easter eggs like the alligator, the crocodile tail coming out of this egg that's hatched. And that piece is how Mike and I became familiar with your work.
Okay, nice.
Which, again, you had mentioned that your first gig poster that you had done was back in around, you said 2013? I think you said that was your first.
That.
Yeah. And then really there was a little bit of a lull in the gig work for the concert posters until this Dave poster in 2021, really.
Yeah. That, like, I mean, I mentioned like my entry was through handbills and posters. And the very first, like, that I realized there is such a thing as a gig poster, which adds so much more value to, like, it's just an art form, it's just not the commercial side. It's just not announcing the show. It's a collectible. It's a commemorative art piece for a concert, which can be such an overwhelming and, for some people, for sure, life-changing. But I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like a concert
absolutely.
is such a, powerful experience. And yeah, the first ones were, I didn't proactively look for them, but they came to me. The first one was, no, that's not true. The first one was for the shrine in a town near where I live. And the second one was Long Distance Calling, a progressive, like post-metal band, like instrumental. And back then, I can't remember how, like I could do the math, but what is it? Years ago, I was in my 20s. I was studying graphic design, and I really had to put pressure on my courses that if I wouldn't follow and be really proactive doing illustration, there wouldn't be any illustration involved in my studies. My heroes back then were like Rich Kelly, Aaron Hawkey, John Dyer Baisley, Richie Beckett, like all of these crazy dudes who have such a masterful ability of, I mean, I'm a digital artist, but they are analog artists. I think, a totally different kind of beast, So that was kind of my North Star back then. Like, if one day I could do gig posters. So there was this band, Long Distance Calling, that I listened to a lot, and they were coming to my hometown called Aschaffenburg, in the only real music club we have there. And I asked them if I could do a poster for them. It was totally different from what I do today, and I really had to persuade everyone. It wasn't sold at the venue. I had to print it on my own and make sure to put it in the frames at the venue. So
Wow.
that's where all my enthusiasm comes from. It's just that was the very first experience or entry or contact. Contact is the best word with the gig poster industry. And yeah, as you mentioned, then I think there was a poster for Kadava in 2020, and then the Dave Matthews Band one. And 2021 really was the year that was, well, one could say career changing, because I got in contact with Chris Siglin from Third, who does all like Pixies, Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder, and that got the ball rolling.
Yeah. And there were some images that I saw on your Instagram from before that. It was like 2018. It looks like a series of maybe tarot cards that you did. And they had this, I don't know how to say it, but for me, the same vibe or the same feel or similar feel to that 2021 Dave Matthews piece, which then in my merch-oriented brain goes immediately to, man, that would be awesome to have an entire deck of like cards done for a band, like, whether it's for Dave or for Metallica or for, and like just kind of like, zoning in on that for that. But that vibe, surrealism, and like take us through these different keyholes and different universes, it just has, for me, that same feel of that 21 poster.
And in 2021 for us is, I think, as experiential differences in where we were in the world with the pandemic happening, 2021 was really impactful from a music standpoint because we hadn't seen live music due to the function of the pandemic and some of the restrictions that we had. In 2021, that was when the Dave Matthews Band had come out with their summer tour, and it was such a momentous time to feel something that we hadn't felt in a really long time, to go to see live music. And for Mike and I, we look at our collection, and while we were regular collectors and picking up our posters as we went on our travels, the pandemic and in 2020 really was exponential in our collection, because it was something that brought us little pieces of joy here and there, whether it was a piece that the band was pushing out for a drive-in, meaning there wasn't any live music. Dave Matthews did this where they were actually doing web drops and continuing to hire artists during that time where there was no live music. And so we were all living in our little worlds and picking up these little, like you had mentioned, mementos. And for us, Mike and I talk about this a lot just we collect and we have friends who come to our house and they're like, boy, you guys have a lot of concert posters. I'm like, well, it's our art.
Yep.
It is the art that we love to collect. It's the way that we look at it from the uniqueness that each artist brings to our collection. And we have a really vast variety. And you've mentioned some of the artists. We have, luckily, some of them in our collection as well. And it does have that moment, Max, where you walk by your piece and you're like, oh, that was such a good concert. Like,
Yeah.
I have such joyful memories. I think live music, there's really, at least for me, there's nothing greater of being in that moment, in that time with the band that you love, with other people who love that.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about energy and being able to bring more of that positive vibes to the world. And like, that's how I feel like we can continue to create, more joy by going and doing those things. But bringing the pieces of art at home, we're looking around. We have our podcast room, and it's some static pieces of art that we have in a large collection, but also we have like a wall that rotates. And so as we come home from our travels, we put up our posters, and it's just a constant reminder. These are on our walls that we've been lucky enough to be able to capture lightning in a bottle in those moments of being able to see the shows, or being able to support the artist that we love so much by picking up their pieces, whether it's at the show or through their artist drops.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't realize, of course, the pandemic made the concert experiences so much more precious, because it wasn't possible before. And yeah, actually, since then, I like my urge to go or see every band that passes around and comes to Germany. We're pretty lucky that next year is a pretty big year. Like basically, I don't know, Foo Fighters, System of a Down, you name it, comes to Germany.
Wow.
I mean, we're not that. Of course, we're over the pond, and we have to wait until these bands come. Yeah, so sure, yeah, it's
pretty epic. And I think what Erica was saying about the individual artist's sort of stamp or style, or I call it a little bit of like soul that you all put into the poster, to the image, to the artwork that you create, that kind of goes hand in hand with that music experience. To me, it's a really critical element of the poster game, if you will, right? The poster collecting, the poster displaying. And I just wanted to pick your brain quick, because we've had some interesting conversations on the pod and around fandom and off the pod of this sort of intrusion of AI into the space, and where that goes for you. I mean, for us, from our perspective, we're big believers that if that comes or creeps into the space, it's doing so much of a disservice, obviously, to artists. It could impact their creativity, their livelihood. But from the collector's perspective, from our perspective of the fans that go to the shows, that stand in line for the poster at the merch booth, or that are waiting with bated breath, trying to catch the drop through the artist's AP store, refresh, refresh, no bots, no bots. If that were to shift to, oh, the band is just going to in-house this and they're going to use artificial intelligence, from my perspective, I have zero interest in making a purchase of an image that was just randomly created by a computer. It fundamentally misses the point, in my opinion, of what the poster represents, of what the gig art represents, which is an expansion of this experience that is music, it's creativity, it's an energy, it brings people together. And the whole point, for me at least, again, as a collector, as a consumer, of putting these band posters on my wall is not to take up space. It's that there's something that I identify with in the message the artist has conveyed through their work, or I think it could be both, or maybe separate. It is a commemorative reminder, like Erica was saying, that we can walk by and sort of be transported back to that experience with the band. And part of that tactile experience, again, from my perspective and in my experience, is that moment when it's like, man, what did Max Loeffler's brain come up with here? This is incredible. And there's some type of dovetailing or synergy that happens there when you have that tuning fork inside you that's like, I just love what the artist created. I love the vibe of this venue and this city and this concert experience, and it kind of culminates into one thing. So that's my soapbox. I'll get off. I don't want to, take over. And if you're a fan of AI out there, I'm sorry. I think there's reasonable application, but in art, in music, like to me, these things should be hand in hand. In other words, if you go and support a gig poster that's created by AI, what's the point in going to see live musicians creating on stage? Why not just have AI create your music then? And then we're all down a
Which
rabbit hole.
happens already, but yeah.
Yeah, so much worse off. So that's my piece, but just interested in your thoughts around.
Well, there's so much to say. Well, I see it like you mentioned the wall of posters you have. In the end, I also collect, well, my collection is pretty sure not as big as yours. But in the end, you have a wall of good times hanging there, and what can I bring to the table? There's so many gig poster artists out there, but at best case, we're all at the first place fans, fans of the bands ourselves. And it's such a rewarding feeling to have done a piece for your favorite band or a band you like. And that connection, I always wanted to play in a band. Somehow I never got off my ass to actually learn an instrument because maybe I was drawing all the time. But there are a lot of other guys out there who can do both. I can't. And so be it live music or concerts especially, it's just, to me, I feel the combination of word and sound is just the most direct, emotionally captivating, what else? Comforting, uplifting, whatever you want to call it, art form out there. And I just admire the power of musicians to create these immersive experiences, and so for my work in album covers or gig posters, it's kind of because I never really learned an instrument, I always wanted to be a part of a band. It's kind of a loophole where I become, it's a tiny part of the visual legacy of the band, but I there's a tiny moment in time where I connect with the band,
That's right.
And in that tiny moment, I feel part of, like, it sounds weird to say because I don't feel part of Pearl Jam, but yeah, in that tiny moment, I feel that connection. And that's just so great. Yeah, that's all I can bring to the table. And I don't really know where, you have that brief where, of course, you have bands have that visual catalog of imageries and motifs that fans know and love. But most of the time, I really just, I read the lyrics and all of that. There's so much to digest and brief all that surrounds the band apart from music. Yeah, I just try to get the vibe. It's as easy as that.
What you mentioned about being a visual extension of the music, that really is how I truly feel about the art that we collect. When we pick up the memento, when we see a piece that we just love. Like, we're kind of those casual collectors from the space of, if we like it, we're going to get it. Whether we were at the show or not, because artistry. And I think that's the nail on the head, which is it's an extension. It's a visual extension of the music. And I think with that concept, that's not something that can be recreated from an algorithm or from cut and paste and pieces of a computer putting it together, because that's what Mike and I talk about this all the time, is like, there is a soul, there is a spark, there is something that is of, maybe not of this earth, and maybe that kind of goes into a little bit of like woo-woo stuff, but that's not something that can be created outside of the human's unique ability to take that unique design or that visual representation of a lyric or the energy vibrations that the music then creates to then put that on paper. And that's an energy transfer, and there's a reality to that us as collectors, like, we can sense it. Like, that may, I have a little bit of like the litmus test now. Like, I see something online, I'm like, I think that's AI. I don't think that's human. And it's almost like my own internal, I don't know what, my own internal tuning fork.
Or red flag.
Or something that just says, I don't like this.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear because, actually, I think there's a lot of people out there who just don't care and just want to have nice pictures, like nice images on the wall. Or, I mean, it's not just AI. Just the other day, from time to time, I mean, I have a drop coming with 5 prints tomorrow. And each time I have a drop, well, it's not good for my mental state, but I do it. I look on Etsy and eBay and I see if the offer would also include having it on underwear or whatever kind of other commercial gadget, like you can have the gig poster in like 7 to 10 different formats starting at $20. I mean, I know gig posters can be pricey and it's really, I know it, but it's just like the entire flood. Like, it's not just one offer on eBay or Etsy, it's 10. And you don't have much like left to do. I try to report it, like file a report, but it just ends up in the void, and it can be frustrating.
Yeah, and that's a really good analogy, I think, because for me, it goes to audience, right? For the real, I think, fan that goes to the show, that takes the time to stand in line to get the poster, or the fan that follows their favorite artist on the socials, on Instagram, on their website, subscribes to the newsletter, and really wants the limited edition AP drop or different foil variant or different ink variant. That's one type of avatar. That's one type of audience. That's one type of fan. The folks that are going to buy bootleg type of reprint on Etsy on a wooden cutting board or something, I think it's a different consumer. It's a different person. That's somebody that doesn't necessarily understand or value the...
Or maybe they just don't know. And I think,
it could be that too.
Yeah.
we kind of, you have to be so critical in your thinking and the way that you dissect what we see online nowadays to go, is this legit? Is it not? I do see this in, the Dave Matthews Band poster collector forums. Every once in a while, someone will say, is this legit? Has anyone seen this before? And it might be a screen grab of something from Etsy or a screenshot of something from eBay. And kudos to the collectors, the collector community for going, no, that's not legit. There's nothing that's ever existed in that colorway before. Don't support that. That's they're hijacking the artist. If you want it here, and oftentimes what we see in the community, and this is the glass is half full from the collectability, is someone might post something and then you'll see in the comments like, hey, I've got an extra one.
Right.
Or I've got a copy of this in, and there is this sort of, I've got your back as a collector. I know you're trying to find something. Don't go buy that over there because that's not legit. That's going to be, not going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is its own little, our own little community. Now, again.
And then I would even say in those communities, whether it's a Facebook forum or a Facebook group or whatnot, if you go in detail and you start to read the rules of collecting and posting and trading, they want to make sure that if you're going to post something for sale or trade, like, hey, I'm thinning out my poster portfolio, letting some things go. If you're a collector and wants that, and if you're going to post that, it better be real and authentic. It better, you want to have the right images, pictures to show, the limited numbers and the corners and the condition. Otherwise, you run the risk of kind of being banned from the group and whatnot. And so when you start to look at the head count of those groups, right, of the number of collectors, whether it's Metallica poster collectors or Billy Strings poster collectors or Dave Matthews poster collectors, I mean, those numbers really start to add up. And to me, those are all people out there saying, we want the authentic art created by the gig artist who was, as you said, Max, I think so perfectly, like who's aligned with the band in that moment of time. And I think you do. You become part of that lore, right? Part of that experience.
That's a good way to. That's a great way to say.
You know, that's what they want. They don't want necessarily something computer generated or ripped off of the artist's work and then thrown on an apron. While it might look cool on an apron, I'd rather it be a limited edition apron dropped in Max Loeffler's store than bootleg through Etsy or something.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a challenge to discern for us to discern. And I think it's a good thing. We know that it's very difficult when you guys are dropping your artist proofs and your prints and your pieces of artwork. I'm constantly like, when somebody says, hey, how can I get this poster? I was at the show and I missed out. It got sold out right in front of me. I'm always commenting, go follow the artist, go subscribe to their mailing list because they will do an artist proof drop. And if you really, really want one, go support the artist, and that's been my MO for years and years and years, because at the end of the day, that's what keeps y'all being able to do what you do, so that we can then go. Mike and I like to stand in line. We like to be up there in the front, especially if we know that it is a piece of art that we want for our collection. Like, we will put in the time and the energy to go wait at the merch, in line for the merch booth.
Almost pulled a hamstring a couple times running to the merch booth, but that happens, and
it was well worth it because we were able to get what we wanted. Sorry, Mike. I appreciate your
that foil fox in Charlottesville was tough. That was a tough one.
But that's the thing about it is, if you're a true collector, you understand, like, there is time. Either you spend the time waiting, but the way that
later spend the money,
or later spend the money, right? But hopefully later spend the money at the artist store directly, because again, we know that there are limitations when it comes to what you can and cannot sell based on contractual obligations, and so there's a limited number of posters that are out there in the world. And if you're a fan, if you're a collector, a fan of the music, a fan of the artist, like, that is the best of both worlds, to be able to have that moment in time and to be able to get that for your collection. Because I don't regret a single piece of artwork that we have up on our walls. The things that I do regret are being somewhere, being like, I don't know, let me think about it. You hesitate, and then you're like, you go back and it's gone, and you're like, no.
Yeah, I know.
So always get the poster, even if you're not sure about it, because you will be sure about it later.
Max, I know we started to touch on it a little bit, but do you want to kind of fill us in on upcoming drop and let the listeners know where they can come to find more information about future drops?
Yeah, so there's obviously contact point number one, which is Instagram. Don't follow Max Loeffler, at Max Loeffler. Follow Hacks Loeffler with an H. Yeah, it is how it is. I won't switch back.
We'll make that 100% clear, and tag the right Instagram handles.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then I obviously have a proper web page, which is not updated at all. Yeah, as it should be. And there's my big cartel store, but you can access all the different spots from every other spot. So it's my big cartel store. And I'm not sure when the podcast here comes out, but I think the drop tomorrow will be over.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully we can maybe put some, we'll share it out on the socials, just to help out in a promo kind of way as well, just to say, hey, don't forget one of our favorite artists is nice. Having a drop. But one of the things we talked about is, as we're coming up, this will air before the holiday season. And so, for us as collectors and for your friends who are collectors, please go to the artists' sales and their shops. Shop small, with your favorite artist to support that and gift something that is unique and different in every way, shape, and form that you can think of. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Max, we're trying to kind of, as we're talked about the community of artists, and you mentioned that you're a collector yourself, that you have contemporaries that you love. One of the things we've been asking some of our guests is, what's a poster that wasn't yours that you've seen this year, not like forever and ever, like maybe just in the last, 6 months, that you were like, man, I wish I would have done that, or that's incredible?
Wow, there's so many. Well, I gotta go with the one that's like the most recent one, which actually was a piece by Dave Clock, I think. But was it for? I mean, it has that kind of little person and the disco ball, and behind, like, the entire background is just an incredibly rendered cloud. I think what was it for? Was it for Tedeschi? Is it how it's pronounced?
It might have been
Tedeschi?
Tedeschi.
Yeah.
Tedeschi
Tracks.
Yeah.
Oh no, Trey Anastasia band.
Oh, that's
Oh
right.
no, yeah, that one. Okay.
It was Tab.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's sort of like
That's crazy.
channeling the energy from the disco ball.
It's from a guitar, though. He's holding up a guitar like it's Guitar Hero, and the energy is coming up from the. Yeah, that's pretty fire.
So that's pretty sick.
That is sick.
Yeah,
I love Dave's work too.
Yeah, it's incredible. One, your work and Dave Clock's work are very different from like kind of the way that you create the artwork and the way that but there is, again, this like fun surrealism, sort of bigger than life, and the way that you guys treat the pieces of art and perspective is just very cool.
He's a master of perspectives.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who does like weird and fun perspectives like him.
That's such a cool thing to then see, and then that makes you feel like, wow, I gotta step it up here,
right?
Have
to get that one.
I might have to get that one for my wall too.
Yeah, I got to step up my cloud game. Yeah.
Well, anything coming up in end of 25 or in 26 that you kind of want to tease, Max, or
can share?
Some of it you can't, and we fully respect that and understand it.
I can't really say something, but what I can say is that I try my best to get my name on the list for some posters for shows in Germany next year.
Very exciting.
So I can't say if something will happen, but I try my best to get my name on the list.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for more incredible work from Max Loeffler.
Yes.
We'll tag the socials in the posts. Be on the lookout for drops coming up, maybe some things around the holidays. If there's not a drop, maybe there's something in the shop that you can pick up for a friend, family, or loved one. And Max, just thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much as well. It was pretty much fun. So thanks for having me.
Well, we would love to have you back anytime. And that's the greatest gift that we can, get in this exchange, is to be able to have so many more stories. I'm like looking at our notes. I was like, wow, I didn't hit on 90% of that. So that just means we need to have you come back for a 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thank you, Max, for joining us today.
And we'll talk to you next time on Best of the Tour. Thanks, y'all. All right, Best of the Tour listeners, it's time for the Tour Tracker.
Your guide to the shows you don't want to miss.
Hey, if you're looking to catch a show with a cool band who has even cooler posters, check out Dirty Heads. They are on tour starting in January of 2026. They're going to be playing a bunch of festivals down the Riviera Maya, Mexico, California, back up to Florida, all the way through the spring into Arizona. Check out dirtyheads.com to find the tour dates.
Foo Fighters is kicking off their tour in 2026, starting in Daytona Beach, Florida at the Welcome to Rockville show. Check out foofighters.com/tour-dates to go check out and see where they're going to be in 2026, starting all the way over in the UK for a very extensive tour, and then swinging back around to the States towards the end of August. Head on over to go get your tickets to go rock and roll with the Foo Fighters in 2026. And that's your tour tracker for this episode.
Have fun out there, and we'll see you on tour. Best of the Tour is presented by Invisible Industries. Find us at www.bestofthettour.com and on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. You can also catch Erica and Mike on their other podcast, Posters in Every Direction, streaming wherever you stream your podcasts from. A big thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time. If you're digging the stories that Erica and I are bringing you, and if you'd like to keep these podcasts going, please consider tipping us in the tip jar at buymeacoffee.com/best of the tour. That's BUYMEA coffee.com/best of the tour to support the podcast. Thanks, y'all.
Are you looking for some ways to get inspired and make some creative magic happen? Then you need to go stock up on art supplies. Head on over to bestofthettour.com and hit our Blick affiliate link. It's the same price, supports the show. Go check it out.
If you're like us, you love supporting the independent artists who make the art for the posters we love. So if you're looking for a new poster, look no further than shop.invisibleindustries.com. You can find their print collections, including art prints, limited edition prints, remarks, original works, and much, much more.
So go on over to shop.invisibleindustries.com to go check out what they've got in store.